Senator Whitehouse cornered AG Bondi with one simple question: what happened to the $50,000 in cash? What followed wasn't just deflection, it was a masterclass in how to dodge accountability while running the nation's top law enforcement agency. When pressed about FBI payments, sealed testimonies, and Epstein investigations, Bondi's responses revealed something troubling about justice under Trump.
Was declared by him on his tax returns.
Senator, I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company.
The questions here are actually pretty specific. So having you respond with completely irrelevant far-right internet talking points really is not very helpful here. I'd like, Mr. Chairman, you generally like to have us be able to get answers, to know, and we'll follow up with the QFR, and to the extent Patel wants to answer, that would be great as well. What happened to the $50,000? Did Homan keep it? Did the FBI get it back? If he kept it, did he put it on his tax returns? Pretty simple questions. Homan was the same guy who said there was a deal with Eric Adams. He said, if Adams doesn't come through, I'll be back. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to? Which brings us to the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee, because he was also involved in that transaction. Yeah. What became of the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee?
Yeah, Senator Whitehouse, to correct you for one moment, that would be the Honorable Judge Emil J. Bovee III to you.
Not at the time of this. He was an employee of the Department of Justice. And what became of the OPR investigation?
It's all pending litigation, Senator. I can't discuss pending litigation nor personnel matters.
OPR customarily publicly says when there's an investigation, and at the end of it, they provide a summary. Why can't you say whether there's an OPR investigation and whether, if it's concluded, there's a summary?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
Even public ones?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
So, Kash Patel told this committee that his grand jury testimony after immunization, after initially pleading the Fifth, was, and I quote, sealed by the Department of Justice. How and when and why was his testimony sealed, and by whom?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss any testimony, especially testimony that could be sealed with you.
No, the question is, was it or was it not sealed?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss that with you.
Well, he also said that he worked with the Department of Justice to have his transcript released publicly. How and when was his transcript released? Presumably, if he released it publicly, that's something you can discuss because it's public.
Well, Senator, I believe you discussed that with Director Patel.
And I'm asking you because he said the Department of Justice made this decision and you run the Department of Justice.
I would refer that to Director Patel.
Even though you run the Department of Justice and he testified that the Department of Justice released his transcript publicly.
If it is released publicly, we will get you a copy, Senator, gladly.
If, being a rather important word there, when your FBI director testified that that was a fact. Treasury compiles suspicious activity reports, referred to often as SARs, that DOJ receives automatically. Hundreds related to accounts of Jeffrey Epstein. How many of those Treasury SARs did you or Director Patel investigate?
Senator, I'm not sure if your concerned because you took money, I believe, did you, from Reid Hoffman, one of Epstein's closest confidants, not only once but twice in 2018 and 2024, if that's correct. But, Senator, did you ask Merrick Garland any of this over the last 4 years when he sat before you? This investigation has been going on. This investigation was closed. Did you ask Alex Acosta
When you
that?
and Patel came to office, you said you would look into this. There were hundreds of suspicious activity reports. Some people would deduce from the fact that they are called suspicious activity reports that there might be suspicious activity. And yet you seem to have looked at 0 of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that. Okay? Here's what well, no, we cut to something else. The Marshal Service is supposed to protect our federal judges. I have asked repeatedly for the Marshal Service to let me know if they are investigating or being inhibited from investigating whether or not there is orchestration of threats against federal judges, whether under either conspiracy laws or racketeering enterprise laws or aiding and abetting laws, whatever. But as you know, there's the person who says the threat, and then there may very well be somebody orchestrating the threat behind them. Is the Marshal Service allowed to investigate orchestration of threats, and do you know if they've taken one step to do so?
May I answer the question, Chairman Grassley? The time has expired.
I think it's the convention of the committee that if I've started my question in my time, you may answer the question.
I was asking the chairman.
Okay, before I go to Cornyn.
She wants to answer the question, Chairman.
Oh, please go ahead. I thought you said you didn't want to answer it.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
sir. Thank you. Senator Whitehouse, I would be happy to sit down with you regarding any threat to any federal judge in this country. We take threats very seriously. I will set a meeting with you, with Director Serralta of the U.S. Marshals, and I will be there. And we will talk about any threats on federal judges,
including orchestration,
who threatened them or who orchestrated them.
Bingo. Thank you.
What Senator Whitehouse did wasn't just questioning. It was a systematic demonstration of how accountability breaks down when the nation's top law enforcement official treats transparency as optional. This wasn't partisan theater. It was institutional diagnosis. Whitehouse asked what happened to money the FBI delivered to an individual under investigation. Bondi's response was deflection disguised as procedure. She cited a review that found no wrongdoing without addressing whether the money was returned or declared on tax returns. That's evasion of basic financial accountability. Any comptroller could answer this question in 30 seconds. The Office of Professional Responsibility routinely announces investigations and provides public summaries. Whitehouse wanted to know if an investigation existed and if it was complete. Bondi claimed personnel confidentiality for typically public processes. This isn't protecting secrecy, it's avoiding oversight of prosecutorial misconduct. She weaponized bureaucratic language to dodge legitimate inquiry. Treasury's suspicious activity reports flow automatically to DOJ when institutions detect questionable transactions. When pressed about hundreds of SORs related to Epstein accounts, Bondi pivoted to attacking Whitehouse's campaign contributions. That's political damage control, not law enforcement leadership. She turned institutional accountability into personal attack. When agency heads refuse to answer accountability questions, they create two problems. Congress loses its constitutional check on executive power. Career prosecutors see that transparency is no longer valued. This creates a chilling effect where civil servants learn that institutional loyalty means protecting leadership rather than serving justice. Bondi cited irrelevant reviews, claimed procedural barriers that don't exist, and attacked the questioner's credibility. This isn't defensive behavior, it's systematic avoidance of accountability while maintaining plausible deniability. The pattern was unmistakable: deflect, deny, attack. When the Attorney General models evasion, it signals that transparency is politically naive. When basic questions go unanswered, public trust erodes. When oversight becomes theater, Congress can't ensure agencies serve the public. Career staff watch and learn that survival means silence. Congress has investigative powers designed to ensure agencies remain accountable. When heads systematically refuse legitimate questions, they nullify constitutional balance. The result is institutional breakdown without meaningful review. Democratic oversight becomes meaningless performance. When law enforcement operates without oversight, selective enforcement becomes inevitable. Cases get pursued based on politics rather than evidence. Career prosecutors self-censor. Public trust evaporates because citizens can't verify agencies serve law rather than power. Justice becomes partisan weapon. Congress should demand written responses to every unanswered question. Inspector General reviews should examine the transactions Bondi refused to discuss. The public should insist transparency requirements apply to all agencies. When accountability becomes optional for those who enforce law, law itself becomes a tool of power rather than protection.